Classic.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, Bloodborne.
Bloodborne.
Now, you're a veteran of FromSoftware.
I'm like a failed veteran. Like a failure to
You've
launch.
seen some things.
Yeah. But I've told you, I feel like I'm terrible at those games. I don't know who feels good at those games besides speedrunners.
Yeah. I mean, most of us don't feel good, and that's why we revere the let me solo hers of the world.
It makes no sense.
Zero. It's like, how did you even get this? So anyway,
Their brains work different.
To my credit,
Yeah.
I've played Sekiro, the first FromSoftware game I played. Then I went to Elden Ring.
Yep.
And now I'm on Bloodborne.
Yeah, a really unnatural progression.
The Elden Ring obviously is an incredible game. It delivers an experience that maybe is either long forgotten or a new experience, because you mentioned like, it kind of resembles those old Zelda games where you would just go around and get killed somewhere or don't have the tools to get to where you need to be.
You didn't know what you were doing.
No one told you shit. Like, the clues are sporadic. They're
like the original
riddled.
NES game. You just go into a tunnel and he says, "It's not safe. Take this with you." Gives you a fucking sword.
Yeah.
And then you go and explore. And it was awesome. It was great. You know, it got your imagination going, all this wonder, and just like, what is all of this? You know, It's beautiful. And Miyazaki, the creator of Dark Souls and Elden Rings, on record as that being one of his inspirations. You know.
Yeah.
So.
But the gap between those Zelda games of the 1980s, 90s,
yesteryear.
Yeah. Then we've had all these other games that I don't like to use the term, but I know you use the term, like, hold your hand.
Yeah.
In the game, I don't necessarily believe that's the case always.
Not always, but a lot of them are too heavy. At least for a while.
Yeah.
I feel like that trend has died down a little bit. But
Possibly,
like when everything was a first-person shooter for a while, like after Halo, like you would do the same tutorial on everything. And there'd always be like, all right, there'd be a point where you'd have to squat and go through a tunnel.
Yeah.
Just to load the game.
Well, also to tell you that you can squat, and this is when you would do it. You have to crouch and go through this hole.
It was really tedious. And there was like a big trend, and like a part of like Demon Souls was like kind of bucking against that trend, you know? So it set a precedent, and like the first Demon Souls was like a test bed for their ideas, and it's all expanded, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, the problem that people have with these Soulsborne games, is that you get in there and you just get your ass kicked.
You do.
I mean, it really comes down to it. You go in there, and even the most baseline, bad guy or whatever can totally fuck you up if you're not on your game.
Oh yeah.
Which is problem A, but problem B is, to level up, they have this thing where you're collecting souls or blood or runes or whatever it is
for that game. Yeah.
And if you get killed, you lose them, as in they drop in the place that you were killed. And then you have to go and get them back, oftentimes fighting through a series of enemies that you can't die. If you die again, you lose them permanently. Like, so you're already pressured to do this sort of thing. But you can't pause.
No pause.
You can't. You're never really safe. Nothing's ever safe. It's you're constantly on edge. You're constantly on edge.
Oh yeah.
And on top of that, after all that work, you get to a boss fight, and that person completely fucks you up for a week, and you spend every day losing and trying to beat this person. And one day you're like, oh, I got it. And so, like, that's frustrating for people who are used to fighting easier bosses and easier enemies.
Yeah. It's great.
It's amazing if you're that type of person who doesn't give up easily. If you're okay with the challenge, but like a lot of people aren't. They want to have, like, I want to get through this game.
Yeah. Look, I get the argument for like an easy mode in a game, but those games. And most of the time it's like, yeah, fine, whatever. But like the experience that they're cultivating and kind of their entire philosophy revolves around the difficulty. Sometimes it's bullshit. Sometimes it's really frustrating.
It's very frustrating when you die in a bullshit way, like I did yesterday when, I got pushed off a cliff.
Yeah. And that happens all the time in those games. They're not perfect, but like the reason they are popular and the reason people like are so attracted to them is the fact that they both stick to their storytelling themes and their design like choices in a very uncompromising way. And a lot of the themes and a lot of the satisfaction come from overcoming these seemingly impossible odds.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so you can't have the same experience by making the game like quote unquote easier. And I do think like Elden Ring has many ways to make the game easier, but you still have to put in the work to figure out what those are.
Yeah.
It's not just going to tell you. I like it because it doesn't like insult your intelligence.
Okay.
I'm not great at those boss fights. I feel like I've given up on those games and gotten to places where it's just like it was a full stop and I was like, I can't beat this guy.
Yeah.
And then put the game away and came back like, I think Dark Souls, I loved the game, but I got stuck. I can't remember where. Completely just like didn't know what to do. Didn't look it up. I should have looked it up. And I put it down for like a year and then came back, or 2. I don't even know. It was a long time. I moved, like Dark Souls 3 came out and I was just like, I'll play this. But yeah, I don't think you get the same experience, and it's designed to be that, you know?
Yeah.
So to ask them to be something other than what they are is foolish. You know, like you're a clown if that's what you want, you know? Like it's like, and it's insulting. It's like telling an artist, because what I think they make some of the closest resembling like games to art.
Oh yeah.
When you put everything together,
Beautiful set pieces, beautiful
Yeah.
characters.
amazing environmental storytelling,
Yeah.
like it just like sets the imagination on fire. Does it need to be as hard as it is to do all of that? Not necessarily,
I'd
but
argue so.
yeah, there's something about that oppressive nature and like the world that has like gone terribly wrong, and you're just like, it's not gonna give it to you easy. So I think it's wonderful, but just my point, like you can't go into an art exhibition and tell the artist that they're wrong for making the art the way they made it. Like modern critics, like you can be critical of it and have whatever thoughts you want of it after the fact, but to tell like these designers that they're designing their games wrong is just like kind of stupid. Like, but that's where we live in like the internet, which is like hyper critical of everything, and everyone's got an opinion, and like this is how you make it better, and blah 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 blah. But it's like, you didn't make shit. Like, shut up, you know. But you know, I say that, and I'll have a dumb opinion about something, you know.
Well, we're allowed to have opinions on things, but I do think one thing you're kind of hitting on is that the difficulty and its imperfect nature is kind of like it's there's beauty in that as well. So as far as the difficulty, it's like the euphoria you get from actually finally beating this boss or those enemies or this section, like it's unmatched in any other game, I think.
True, yeah.
You know, there isn't any other game where you struggle, like literally to beat the final boss in Elden Ring. It literally took me 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Of constant, like every day, spend 20 minutes, an hour fighting, figuring out their moves, dying over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And then one day, I remember I picked it up and I couldn't be touched.
You're just the god.
Yeah.
You were the
I knew their
Lord.
moves, I knew the patterns, like everything, and I like completely dominated. Same thing with Sekiro. Like the Sekiro end boss has 3 fucking
Phases.
transformations.
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine
Brutal game.
you
Still never beat it.
you gotta get. Dude,
I gotta go back.
It has 3, so you go through. You struggle with its first form.
Yeah.
You figure that out finally. Oh, there's a second form, which is normal in from Soulsborne games,
yeah.
which is normal. They usually have a second one. All right,
Yeah.
so you expect that, right? You struggle through whatever moveset that is, you think you got him because that's his second and last form. No, he's got a third one. So yeah, that took me 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to the point where I beat him, again, I couldn't be touched. I was blocking everything. I was countering everything. I was dodging everything, and just like
you're in like the
this
flow
guy.
state.
Yeah, and you just feel you feel like a god by the time you're you got it. You know.
Yeah, but people like make dumb arguments like, oh, I could argue that's not even like difficulty. That's artificial difficulty. And I'm like, well, if that's artificial difficulty, then I don't really understand what difficulty in a game is, because it's like all you're doing is like memorizing their movesets. And it's like, yeah, but like, what else is there? Like, you want riddles? Like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, if you're saying
you want to be able to slash at him 100 times and
yeah, like you could artificially manufacture difficulty in a video game in a number of ways, but like I think the way they manufacture their difficulty is pretty damn good. And to that point too, like of the satisfaction feeling, I also think like the whole like you were on a run and you like made it really far and you lost your souls, like as stressful as that is and as much bullshit as that is, it's like you have stakes and you're invested and you're like,
right,
oh shit, I gotta get back there. And that's some of the best, like, all right, you're fucking going, you know, like, and if you finally get it, it's like, oh fuck, thank God. You know,
exactly that feeling when you finally reach and be like, all right, I made it.
Yeah, like
get out of here.
That's not something that a lot of games can give you. And as much as it really pisses you off to like lose it, you know, it's like a part of also like this ongoing theme too, like especially Dark Souls plays around with it, of the idea of hollowing and basically losing your mind and giving up. There's a theme for it within the game that's like built into the storytelling, the way the world's built, and essentially like the idea is like once the game is off, you've gone hollow. Like if you're not gonna beat it, you leave the world like in its state and it never like evolves.
You're like this shell that wanders.
You essentially inhabit that shell. Yeah. So there's like a theme that extends even outside of it if you really want to break it down, and it's just like the way they do that is super brilliant. I was just watching this like breakdown on Bloodborne and the attention to detail on how even the hunters in the DLC, they all wear they all have like wrappings around their right leg.
Okay.
Because that's where you do your blood thing, or you hit it.
Oh.
And so there's like actual like purpose and intent behind like all of these hunters actually like doing this thing that you do, because that's where your puncture point is, and they need to like tourniquet it. And it's just like the level of thinking and how like in depth everything is just super wild.
Yeah, that's one thing about them for sure. That's like, man, they just, I don't know who thinks of these things, but they're so detailed, so like in the minutia of everything. Like there isn't a single pixel there that isn't there because of a reason, like a folklorish reason.
Yeah.
You know, this body that you think is just in the corner because it's just set dressing. No, that person was like the prince of the area and like was put there because, you know, Lord, you know, Madge like threw them there, and you know, just got this whole thing. But another aspect is that, you know, the bullshit dying, sometimes people get pissed off with that, because like you saw it happen to me the other day when I was just like fighting these very baseline enemies, but I got shot and thrown off of this building. You know, had I had 60,000 runes out there, I'd be pissed if I would have lost.
Be rough. Yeah, it's a game that as much as it rewards you, it can punish you.
It punishes hard.
Yeah, like I've been in like mental states where I try to boot it up and I'm just like, I'm not here for this. Like I need something just casual. Like I can't focus. You need to be like, all right, I'm ready. You know, you need to like gear yourself up a little bit and be like, all right, here we go. You know, it's not for just like, I'm just gonna burn an hour or two on the couch and just mess around. It's like, nah. You do that a little bit on Elden Ring. I feel like you can
more
kinda,
relaxed. Yeah,
you can kind of pick what you want to take on. But like with Bloodborne and most of the Dark Souls games, it's kind of like, all right, I have to get through this thing or I'm just stuck.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going anywhere if I don't beat this guy, you know?
But that's kind of, you know, we've talked about how Elden Ring is kind of the pinnacle. Well, maybe not pinnacle. Hopefully not. Hopefully they get better and better.
I think they still have more to offer, you know?
They've found that balance of finding that difficulty and also like some of the design difficulty versus the undesigned difficulty. So an example of that would be just simple fact that in Elden Ring, they usually put a grace, which is your save point, near your boss battle. Okay,
Right.
so when you die, because you will, you don't have to go through a bunch of shit just to get back to your boss battle. Whereas in Bloodborne, it's like they put some of these boss battles like a good 5-minute run from wherever your last save point is.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary, but it's like, okay, it sucks.
It does suck. It's uncalled for a lot of times. It was an interesting choice, like, I think, when they made it initially, because it was like just, I think, a choice made as like antithetical to like current trends, but I think they realized like it doesn't necessarily add anything.
Right.
It kind of makes it just like a pain in the ass to go and refight that. But I mean, when I first started playing those games, I thought it was like an interesting component, you know, because I was like, oh, you son of a, like, I gotta, but, and you kind of learn to accept it a little bit. And you can run past a lot of this stuff, but still, it's just like running past a bunch of stuff isn't necessarily like beneficial, you know. Once you realize I don't need to fight everything, I can just like
which essentially makes it seem like, oh, this is a waste of time then, if that's the case.
Exactly. That's where it kind of ends up. But before, I think they just thought you'd have to fight through it, which again is just total fuck you thing. Yeah. But we've talked about it many times where there's just moments in those games where you can literally picture the developer who came up with this scenario laughing in your face, being like, haha, like it's such a fuck you moment. Like, oh my god, I can't believe that. But then you can't help but to kind of laugh at the absurdity of it. You're like, you did that.
Which is kind of what I do now. Like I'll run into like a boss or a scenario in which I just get destroyed. I just laugh about it. Like, oh, there's a developer out there who thought this was hilarious.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and there's like a little sense of humor to it, like that's maybe a little sadistic, but anyways, where so far of your experiences, I know you've only got the 3, and Elden Ring's kind of hard to top, and Sekiro's pretty great in terms of what it does, but it's very like different. Where do you feel the Bloodborne experience is so far?
Well, I'll say this, I almost quit Bloodborne.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, because so for those who don't know, Bloodborne, unlike Elden Ring, unlike Sekiro, your weapon degrades over use. Okay, so I'm playing, getting pretty good. You know, I'm getting, because it plays exactly like Elden Ring for the most part. Like the buttons, all that shit.
Yeah,
it's all the same, right?
Button layout and everything.
So I'm already coming from like understanding that whole stuff. So I'm just like getting through, killing people, dying whenever. Okay, fine, blah blah blah. So I get to the first bad guy, which is like that werewolf creature.
The
on
cleric
the bridge.
beast.
Yeah. Okay. I pretty much beat him. I think he killed me once. It was like some bullshit. But like I basically beat him the second time. Like whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Get through more of the game. I run up against
Gascoigne?
Yes.
Something like that.
I always forget his name.
It's hard to
Gaston. That's from
Gaston. Yeah, Gascoigne. Gascoigne, I think is his name, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so I get to this guy, and my weapon has been broken this entire time. And I asked you about it because I noticed at one point I was fighting a bad guy that used to take me 1 or 2 hits.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it takes me 5 to take him down.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that the game gets harder as you go on. That's not the case. So I get to Gaston.
Yeah.
And I'm hitting him and it's doing nothing to him, right? So in my mind, I'm like, shit, do I need to level up to do this?
Yeah.
And first off, leveling up, I don't want to grind in the game, okay?
A little grinding's okay.
Well,
a
sure,
lot of
grinding
grinding is just
the grinding that was
obnoxious.
going to be necessary for me to get strong enough to what I thought to beat him was going to be insane. I was like, I'm not doing this. So there's number 1. Number 2, part of the fight mechanic in Bloodborne is that you use your pistol. You have a melee weapon, you have a pistol in your other hand. Okay.
Yeah.
You use your pistol. It
block.
doubles as your counter. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Obviously, it's a potent way to fight a bad
Yeah,
guy, but
it's
unlike
great.
in Elden Ring,
It's
unlike in
consumable.
Sekiro, it's consumable.
Yeah.
So you only have so many opportunities in which you can counter a move, which is
Mm-hmm.
20.
Yep.
You have 20 chances, and you have to time it right, which you usually don't.
Yeah.
So
It's very hard to hit.
I can't, I'm running out of bullets.
Mm-hmm.
My weapon is doing jack shit because it's broken. I don't know that. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to sit here fucking grinding for bullets and health vials because unlike Sekiro, unlike Elden Ring, your health vials, you have to earn them. You don't just get a full row of them.
It's just very interesting choice.
So I'm like, dude, I don't have the energy, I don't have the time, I don't find the health vials, bullets, blah, 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 to do this. So I almost quit. I go in the game one last time just because I just wanted to fuck around on it, and I noticed a message finally that says, it was like the beginning of the game, your weapon's broken. And I was like, what? Your weapon's broken? What does that mean? I didn't
like when you booted it up.
Yeah, it was just like I booted it up and like started playing. I just noticed just the tiny little like prompt that's like your weapon's damaged.
And that's the only time it told you.
That's the only time I noticed because it's small on the screen. It doesn't like pop up.
I know, but just the fact that it's like you'd have to turn the game off and then turn it on to even get the message.
Yeah. So
it's like, oh, good choice.
Right. So I was like, what? And I think that's when I asked you. I was like, does your weapon break in the game? And I don't think you remembered or whatever. So
no, because you asked me if the game gets harder, and I was like, not like that, not from where you're at. And then you did ask about the weapon, and I said go to the weapon altar. That's I think I called it.
Yes.
But you were going to the altar, and it is like right next to it.
Yeah. Because you can't tell. The game doesn't have like a lot of flashy things that are like, this is interactive or whatever the word is. It doesn't do a lot of that.
And really
that's sort of the psyche of like how difficult it is, because there's a lot of things they could do to help you and tell you like, hey, this is something to look at. They don't do it.
Yeah.
They don't say anything.
Well, even though like, the doors and the little windows and like people that you can interact with early on, it's like super discreet because the game is so monochromatic that like there's a little light here and it's like you wouldn't notice it, but then you realize like, oh, everything else is off. That's the only place where this light is. But yeah, it's subtlety is the name of the game, and if you're not looking at everything and clicking X, then you're not going to find out.
Right. So I finally figure out how to repair a weapon.
Yeah.
Which is what I needed this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Go back. I'm back to, not only am I slashing guys in like 3 hits, the ones that were 3-hit kills are now 1 because I've been getting stronger. I've been leveling up. So I'm one-shotting all these people that I figured I would be one-shotting by now.
Yeah.
I get back to Gaston.
Just call him Gaston.
Gaston. I get back to him, and I absolutely dominate him.
Right.
Like, it's nothing. I'm countering everything. I'm dodging. I got the music box. He's like
got
playing
the confidence
that.
now.
I don't think he laid a hit on me on that. Finally. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Now that I know I need to watch my health of my weapon, I can keep track of that and
Game changer.
Yeah. So it's ever since then I've been playing. But anyway, I love it. I love the Lovecraftian sort of like. It's very dark. Everything's weird. I came to the office that one day. I was like, bird dogs, dog birds, which is in reference to a point where there's a bird enemy, and there's a dog enemy, and at some point they merge. I don't know why, but you have dogs with the heads of birds, aka bird dogs, and you have birds with the head of dogs, aka dog birds.
Yeah.
And he's just a bizarro sort of thing in the world. Everything gets bizarre and weird.
It just keeps getting weirder.
Yeah, which I love. So I appreciate the game. I might like it more than Sekiro, though it's hard to say. It's hard to rank them.
Sekiro's got some of the best combat, kind of, on just how sharp it is. I think the story is okay in Sekiro. It's cool. It's a cool setting, but you kind of like it's a smaller world.
They all seem big to me, no matter how small
Yeah, I feel like Bloodborne's got one of the most interesting ones, just because it's like the gothic thing you've seen a few times, but they do it really, really well.
Yeah.
And then just how everything twists and keeps twisting and keeps kind of just getting weirder and weirder, and you can't pin it down. And
Yeah.
the Lovecrafting stuff is already like, I feel like people do it, but kind of just like tip their toes in it.
Sure.
Like they really explored it in a way that like only FromSoftware would, which
Yeah, and it's got like a hint of like Tim Burton.
yeah, a little bit.
I'm like,
Especially in the
into.
Hunters design, like they're always kind of got their weird top hats and stuff. Yeah, the aesthetic of it is like so cool, even if it is so like monochromatic. It just is such a bizarre thing, and I love the villagers at the beginning because they're obviously like turning into beasts,
Right.
but they're also like killing people who have turned to bestial, you know. And then the fact that it starts where you just feel like it's a werewolf thing, and then it just ends with like, this is cosmic horror, you know. You're like, what am I doing, you know? It's so crazy, and it's one of the hardest ones I think to truly pin down. Like the video I was watching before we started this was like a 40-minute like just a deep dive on what the story is, but really he admits like this is all just based on like my theory. Like some of these are you can say this happened and this person is here, but then he gets to the point where it's like, but we don't even know if these people are here at the same time, because some of these realms are existing in nightmares or in different levels of reality that we don't even know if they exist at the same time or not, you know. So it plays with all these different things. And
Notorious from, because they don't give you much. I mean, the story is so hard to pin sometimes.
It's impossible. Literally, I would have no idea what happened in any of those games if it wasn't for the internet and people like that actually do lore deep dives and explain. Like I'm consistently lost and just in awe.
Yeah.
But that's what I love. I love coming into an area and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. What happened here?
Yeah, like something crazy happened here. And yeah, it's just a really wonderful world. I really wish they would make a second Bloodborne.
Ooh, yeah.
But I don't know if it's ever gonna happen.
Because it's the way it ends. I don't know how it ends. Don't tell me.
It's just people have been like asking for it forever, and FromSoftware has never been like Bloodborne 2. It's happening. People still want a remake because that game runs only in 30 frames per second. You know, they made a Demon's Souls remake, and Bloodborne is like, for some people, that's like their favorite FromSoftware game.
Okay.
So they're like, I don't even care about these other ones.
Well, you were saying because the Bloodborne has a different philosophy, especially when, you know, again with the countering, you know, you have a limited amount of times you can block.
Yeah.
So, you know, the idea is that, well, with Elden Ring, you know, you turn people into people that block, that use shields and stuff, whereas in Bloodborne you can't just do that. You gotta dodge and be on your toes more.
It forces you to play more aggressive and to be
that too,
more like,
you get health every time if you get hit and then you hit other enemies, it builds back some of your health to the point where you could actually get your health back just from kicking ass.
Yeah, at least like about 80% if you really like did it right. No, I love that mechanic. I love the weapon art thing. They're not called weapon arts, but just the trick weapon stuff and how you can switch between the different move sets and in real time. And there's so many. I don't know how many you actually played with. It seems like you just stuck to the 2.
Yeah, I just have I mean, I might switch out and do the other shit, but like I don't care.
It's not that different. I mean, honestly, that main one you used is one of the best ones. Like some of the other ones are.
I fully upgraded it, so that's why I'm just like, I'm just gonna stay with you.
And I think it encourages you to do that more than it does like to switch them out. And but I think that combat mechanic was a lot of fun to play around with, even if it would get me into trouble a lot of times because I wanted to do like cool switch combos and shit.
Yep.
But it just always was satisfying to do like light hit, switch to the heavy thing, and then switch again, and it's like very cool. Yeah, it's kind of, you feel like it takes a lot of inspiration from a lot of different areas, that game, but it's so uniquely like its own thing.
Right.
I just like really love it. And as much as I love the Dark Souls, I feel like Bloodborne's like right there. You know?
I mean, I don't think I'm going to play the Dark Soul games.
Just try 3.
Do I have to know the first 2 stories?
Not at all.
Am I going to be lost?
No, it's thematically similar. You're
Okay.
gonna be lost, yes, because you're always lost.
Yeah.
But 3 is good. It plays solid. It's not as hard as the other 2. Good, interesting characters, interesting like set pieces, cool bosses. Really, really cool.
I'd love an art book of just Demon Soul art.
Yeah.
Like if you could just get like turnarounds of the bosses, and their enemies, and like the
Even just early
art.
concept art
Yeah.
of like how they evolved would be really cool.
That'd be incredible.
There's got to be stuff like that out there.
I wonder.
Yeah. But I think if you were going to play any of them, Demon Souls 3 is a great entry point. It doesn't have as much jank. A lot of people shit on Dark Souls 2. I played it. It was okay. It's definitely like the ugly stepchild of the franchise, though.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Apparently Miyazaki wasn't involved.
Okay, you're gonna say those aren't. This isn't a studio that puts out duds. You know, they're pretty true to who they are.
Yeah, it's not a dud. I just think they tried some different things, and it's got some issues, but some things are interesting. I didn't hate it, but it gets a lot of shit. And then other people like really defend it and say it's the best of the 3. But I don't know about that.
Polarizing.
I don't think I could say that. Yeah. But it's worth dipping your toes in there, I think.
Too scared, man.
Yeah, nah. Demon Souls 3 you can handle. It won't you know.
Was it a PS4 game?
Yes.
Because I'm not trying to go beyond like.
Well, they did a remake with with Dark Souls.
Oh.
So it's a minor remake. And then they did the Demon Souls
Demon Souls is another one.
like full upgrade remake. And that one I still haven't played. I started it and I was just like, I don't think I can do this right now. They're games you gotta gear yourself
Yeah.
for.
They're not for the lighthearted or for the
casual.
for the pussies.
Yeah. Get
Well-
good, scrub.